Welcome to the Call to Lead, where founders and CEOs in the finance sector share what calls them to be a leader and offer wisdom for ambitious professionals. I'm Tracy, CEO of Windsor Edge, where we grow financial services and fintech businesses. Let's get into today's episode. I'm here with Jonna Gray, founder and president of Cultivate Financial.
The idea that my business is a service first and a moneymaker second is something that is such a good mantra for me. The ideas of service were really ingrained in me in my early years in the nonprofit sector. Not that anybody wants to talk about the tax problems you helped them solve. Tell me about that IRS situation you were in. No one wants to talk about specifics per se, but they will talk about they helped me win. This phrase like sexy indifference. Even if you are desperate for the part or the client, you don't act desperate for it because that leads you to make bad decisions, right?
What called you to create your own business?
Entrepreneurship actually runs in my family. My dad, he was one of the youngest partners, one of the biggest accounting firms at the time. You know, he's had some ups and downs throughout the years, but he has really done well for himself. And he has taught all of us to do the same. I have older siblings. All of us were in different industries, but within that industry, we all own our own business. I've got a real estate broker, lawyer. One of my other sisters is in forensic accounting. So we have our own businesses, and that's just kind of what we do. And then, being in Dallas, one of the biggest business hubs in America, even with other economic downturns, the 2008 crisis and beyond, Dallas kind of stays insulated a little bit. When everybody else dips very far, we don't dip as much. Within the past 10 years, we've had McKesson, Toyota, Oracle, Google, all of them are more Austin, but Texas in general has had a lot of business come our way. While I'm not directly involved, the ripple effect of big business here is, the little donut shops that open, the marketing companies, the land development, or doctor's offices. It just keeps expanding. So it was really just kind of a natural fit to go ahead and start my own.
I'm going to call Dallas up because I think you should be a spokesperson. I mean, I
thank
feel
you.
like after watching this, people are going to be moving. Like, I'm starting my own business, but I got to go to Texas
Yeah,
first.
and you just gotta fly on over here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do. I want to
Yeah,
be there with, I want to be one of your sisters, just like in this whole business owning partridge family.
well, one of my sisters actually is my worst client. It's
Yeah, there's always one.
Yep.
So what do you attribute your current success to?
My father played a huge role in that. He's been a CPA for over 50 years and really helped me learn the business, not just accounting in general, but how to be a business person in a way that is very human, honest, kind, and giving. He will do stuff for people that not a lot of people would, helping people, organizations, nonprofits. He'll sit on boards with people and help them and give free services, really just to keep the human business. The idea that my business is a service first and a moneymaker second is something that is such a good mantra for me and a good filter to filter my decisions through. The ideas of service were really ingrained in me in my early years in the nonprofit sector. And then coming into the for-profit and financial services, the values of doing to others as you would have them do to you, and so you reap what you sow, like those types of things really come into play a lot. What I mean by filter is you filter your decisions through certain things, like 3-step water filters. It has to go through this, and then it has to go through this. Service is one of those things, and it's very important to me. And so I'm not the stickler of, well, that wasn't in our agreement, or that's going to cost you this, take it or leave it. I'm not going to bend on anything. I know that's hard to balance out as a business person of what do I give away? What do I keep, make sure I charge for? And but really at the end of the day, I've just never regretted giving what I can to people and trying to put their needs first in a way that is mutually beneficial.
Very admirable. When has your awesomeness bit you in the butt, though?
Um, It comes in a way where I will, in an effort to really help someone, I have overextended myself. And I will, try to be like, yeah, I can do this in this amount of time because you need this, then putting aside my need for sleep or, like just being there for my family or, whatever. Because I really do want to help these people try to take on different projects for people. And, if I can't get it done, I've got to be honest and just say, hey, look, I can't get this done in time.
I think that learning curve is worthwhile.
Mhm.
What do you think is unique about your business?
What I have seen in small business financial services is the need for customization in services. I know a lot of successful businesses who have kind of these pre-fixed services packages of I will do this for you at this cost, or you get this service with this together, and I don't separate them out because I need to make a certain amount or whatever. But I've thankfully been able to have the flexibility to meet a business, especially a small business, where they're at. And then as they grow, then so do my services for them. And so I'm able to then grow with them instead of really putting a burden on them to have my services that they sometimes they need. And if they don't, then I tell them, but they need my services. So then let's start here. And as you grow, then I grow. And I have just kind of this click and drag type of model where you need bookkeeping, incorporation, sales tax, payroll tax preparation, whatever. They can pick all of it or one of it, subscription based versus catch up projects and those kind of things. And so that type of flexibility really has served me well in the ability to meet people where they're at and then have a long term relationship with them where we can grow together.
Beautiful. I love that. Something else that I know about you personally that makes it unique as well is your experience and pulling inspiration from faith.
Yes. Yeah. And spending so much time. I grew up at church and I grew up in the church world. A lot of my nonprofit time, even though it was spent in other charities and organizations, did heavily also involve church. I really try to pull that charity mindset into what I do. And I think it is really funny, the do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's not do unto others more than what you would want them to do for you. It's a let's meet each other where we're at. I try to pull that in is something that I love.
That's so healthy. Maybe you should also be a life coach. I feel like I got to find balance in my life and business now. I think people like to work with people like that, right? That you feel more grounded when you're talking
It
to what they're doing and what you're serving.
it is it is pretty attractive. One of the things that I think of with winning clients does actually really tie into the ability to kind of put some people first or that balance. And one of them is, do you know Jason Bateman, the actor Jason Bateman?
You, I know very few actor names, and I'm proud to say I know who that is.
Well, on their podcast Smart List, they always use this phrase like sexy indifference. Even if you are desperate for the part or the client, you don't act desperate for it because that leads you to make bad decisions. One of the things that I like to do is hold my clients loosely, or the idea of having them as clients loosely, even though at time, it sounds really kind of privileged to say that of like, well, you don't need the client as bad as I do. So how do you not do that? But really what it is this idea of if I put them first in what they need in their business, then I am able to be a trustworthy voice for their business. And so, I am able to assess their needs because I sit down with them either in person or on a phone call or Zoom, and I listen to what they need. And what I try to do when I listen is I try to see if we're a really good match and really see what they need. Sometimes if they're too small for my services, I'm like, no. Some people are like, can you do my taxes? And I'm like, you have a very simple tax thing. You don't pay me to do your taxes. Go on TurboTax for free. Or a business, if they're too small for my bookkeeping services, I'll tell them. If they're too big for my bookkeeping services and they really need someone in-house, I'll tell them. And I'll just hold them very, very loosely. This approach of let me really assess your needs not only helps me be honest, which gains trust with a client, but then also in that honesty, I can tell them, oh, I actually am exactly what you need. And it gives me the confidence to say, you need this, you need this, you need this, and I can help you get there. And then that trust from day one helps us in the long term. It is helping them and putting them first. And that is somewhat of a faith based value. But in the end, it really does help me. It is that mutual help that has really let me have long term relationships in business, which, my model of business is built on. If I can secure a business person in their late 20s, early 30s, I could have a 30-year relationship with them. That's actually, again, something else my dad really taught me. He has had clients for 40 years.
Mhm.
They trust him. They trust his expertise. They trust that he's going to do exactly what he says he's going to do. And so that long term really helps maintain clients, maintain business, and helps those foundational clients be something you can build on.
The cost of acquisition for you guys must be pretty awesome.
Yeah, we have it, it's great. Not that you can always rely on anything in business because things change, especially some, volatile markets, they shift and change. But as much as you can depend on anything, you can depend on these clients to still be there every January. We're talking taxes again, and they know your system. So it's really easy just to fall into place and everything keeps moving along. The ability to maintain that is key.
Wow. And it's a good win for your clients too. It's always nice to be able to have the solution for other people's problems.
Mhm.
Say, hey, I got the best person here. That's a big win.
Yeah, it is. Not that anybody wants to talk about the tax problems you helped them solve. Tell me about that IRS situation you were in. No one wants to talk about specifics per se, but they will talk about they helped me win.
What types of trends do you anticipate or are you already seeing in your industry in 2025?
It's specific to 2025, but it is for the last couple of years. I've seen a growth in what I maybe have coined as big box online accounting. And I know this is a little self serving, but I really don't like it. But this is why. I have a reason. Big box accounting or services, there's a place for it for certain things within your accounting needs. But there's also this thing where the level of service they provide is just basic at best. This is why, like if you're kind of farming out something like payroll, yes, do that. There's so many really big, like, ADP is kind of an industry standard, but Gusto is really coming up behind them and is great. And I will recommend Gusto over me doing it any day. It's fantastic. Do it, right? There's, sales tax stuff, and I know there's different platforms for that. That's great too, especially when you're dealing with out of state sales tax. But when I'm talking about your actual accounting specific to your industry, specific to your organization, your corporation, your LLC, that big box accounting is very cut and dry when a lot of things are kind of nuanced, especially within your industry. It's industry specific. We've got caterers, contractors, whoever. The service they offer is good until something goes wrong or you have a complex situation that you need help with. And, it's if accounting and numbers is not your forte, which is usually why you are, hiring outside services anyways, you can't usually catch it. You don't know to look for it. People have gotten themselves into trouble with these types of services because they're not catching some of the nuanced things with accounting. I'm not saying that's every service. I haven't tried every service, but that type of accounting really serves you better for your actual bookkeeping or consulting needs to find someone who is there with you, who is, I don't mean this to sound pejorative, but who's a human, who gets you on your level, who has the time for you and asks you questions. A lot of these big box, a lot of their downfall is they do not ask you questions. They see the vendor that you have swiped your debit card with and they put it in a category no matter what. And, especially when something goes wrong or you have questions, they have a script that they stick to. They have strict procedures and will not deviate from them. And it's maddening.
I've noticed in other industries as well that,
Mhm.
you know, the type of service and obsession with how much time and the exact time to cost ratio that you spent
Mhm.
with this client and that's
Some of the metrics, I don't know if they're serving these companies. The ability to micromanage every single minute and second of their, teams is to me, um, really kind of holding them back in a way. The bigger they get, the harder it is to keep quality control. And
Mhm.
so then you are then overcompensating with rules and overcompensating with systems and procedures in a way that actually then it harms you in business or it harms you in the way that you deal with people, and time is money.
Have you seen the I Love Lucy episode where it's like just thinking of the big factory and she's
The
managing the
chocolate
chocolate?
factory.
That's amazing. That's what I was thinking of when you were talking about the efficiency and the metrics.
Like I'm expecting all these things and they're just in chaos, all over and chocolates everywhere.